Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Before the video starts, I'd like to raise awareness on a friend's GoFundMe. Her family restaurant has been going through some hard times, and I thought I could help them by raising awareness for it on my own channel. A link to it will be provided in the description. Please donate any amount of money you want or spread awareness for it however you can. I'm not asking for much, just to give a moment of your time to help them out. Any form of help would be deeply appreciated. Thank you. Well folks, now that it's the start of March, I figured I would give you one last sneak peek at my upcoming ranking of the Disney live-action remakes. With the 15th anniversary of a certain little movie on the horizon, I figured it would be appropriate to give it its own spotlight. A look back on what many consider to be the beginning of the end. And as you'll soon see, it's really understandable. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the final preview before the full release. A look back on Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland for the movie's 15th anniversary.
Hast thou forgotten of the prophecy?
What prophecy?
I don't care if he helped shape someone's childhood. Tim Burton can get fucked for the rest of his career for leading the way for Disney to keep shitting out these garbage remakes with the success of Alice in Wonderland 2010. A remake so not like the original it's based on that I don't know if it even counts for the metrics of this list. It is absolutely nothing like the animated movie or even the original book. If you want to tell a different story, then tell a different story. Don't use an iconic IP to trick people into watching your garbage product. Honestly, this movie should have been called Alice Returns to Wonderland because that's what it's actually about. And it just makes the movie more of a member-berry jerk-fest with Tim Burton constantly going, "Hey, remember this from the original? Do you like how I updated it?" Well, Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland updates nothing. It's a terrible downgrade in every single way you can imagine. And the first and most obvious evidence of this is the CGI. And look, I know a lot of people really like Tim's visual direction and it's always going to be the best part of his movies. And I know when this movie first came out, a lot of people liked the special effects. I'll admit even I thought it was cool when it first came out. But good God, nowadays it just looks so horrible. The CGI in this movie aged so badly. A lot of it looks like badly rendered extras from Mars Needs Moms. The characters are glossy and weightless, making it feel like none of their actions have any impact. And the backgrounds are so devoid of any sense of joy and style. The overuse of these computer effects completely ruins the creativity that was built into the original story. And it's also desaturated and flat with a distracting absence of color, which I'm sure Tim tried to rationalize by saying his adaptation was meant to be a darker and more mature take on the source material, which apparently he hated. Okay, rule number one in remaking a beloved animated classic. If you don't like the animated classic, then don't remake the animated classic. Because you're just showing in great detail that you have no respect for the original property and just want to cash in on its popularity. Seriously, why would you remake something you have no emotional connection to? A remake like that is doomed from the start because you have no understanding of the source material and there's no faithfulness to the original that you're intent on updating. The biggest example of this is how Tim took this story that's supposed to be an exploration of nonsensical nihilism and turned it into a stupid prophecy chosen one storyline. Okay, rule number two when remaking a beloved animated classic. Don't change the story into a stupid prophecy chosen one plot. Seriously, how did this fucking tool look at Alice in Wonderland and think to himself, "Oh yeah, this needs a chosen one storyline"? It completely contradicts the message they're going for about embracing our individuality when Alice spends the entire movie doing all the things the prophecy predetermined for her. Tim takes a wild and chaotic story about a girl exploring Wacky Land and turns it into a generic run-of-the-mill fantasy epic. Alice in Wonderland wasn't supposed to be an epic battle for a kingdom. It was a simple, down-to-earth story about a girl trying to make sense out of a silly, nonsensical place created from her imagination. But thanks to Tim Burton, now it's all prophecy this and prophecy that. They even go so far as to completely give away the ending by saying straight up that Alice will succeed in slaying the dragon. Now there's no stakes in tension anymore because we know she's gonna win. Why should we care about any of this? Even if they didn't give away the ending, it still ruins the movie by turning every character into a tool. There's no natural choices made by any of the characters because the events of the plot are completely dictated by this stupid piece of paper. It's the same thing that happened to Naruto and Harry Potter. But the worst thing about this stupid chosen one nonsense is how it goes against the message of Alice in Wonderland. Wonderland is supposed to represent how Alice is going to experience new things as she gets older. It was like Peter Pan in that the story was about a child going through the ups and downs of leaving their childhood behind while entering adulthood. But here, Alice is already an adult, so the movie completely misunderstands the message of the original story. They retcon her character to make it how she's expected to conform to societal norms when she just wants to be herself, herself, but she spends the entire movie conforming to what society expects her to do because of that stupid prophecy. On top of that, the movie never explores her own desires or what she wants in life, so her character has no motivation. All we ever know about her is that she doesn't want to be like other girls. She wants to defy societal norms and be her own girl. Oh, how riveting. Another stupid girl boss caricature. And maybe it wouldn't have been so bad if they took the time to give her an actual personality. But they couldn't even be bothered to do that. Her acting is so horrible and disinterested, I keep thinking the real actress was kidnapped and replaced with a robot. She's a flat plank who never expresses any sort of emotion. All of her line deliveries are completely dour and pale with no variety to her fluctuation. Even the big off with your head line when she slays the dragon, which you'd think would have a raw sense of anger behind it, is horribly delivered. I don't know if she was miscasted or if she was directed to be like this, but it makes her character so terrible. Alice in the original was a more interesting character because she was a logical person contrasting a non-logical place. The original was an anthology about her trying to make sense of this world. Its entertainment value came from how she interacted with all the oddities she came across. The movie was made that way because Alice in Wonderland at its core was about nonsensical nihilism. How the real world can be just as random as the fantasies we make up in our heads. It benefited her character arc about being ready for the real world when she gets older, and the movie shows this by how she confronts the obstacles she faces. She didn't use brute force while swinging a sword to overcome her challenges. She used her wit and reason. The original Alice was a bright character filled with personality. Remake Alice is stilted and dull. Like it's not even a contest which version of the character is better. Well, what about the other characters, you might ask? Well, they're pretty bad too. All the citizens of Wonderland are deprived of their madness and over-the-top personalities from the original. They behave more like party members you team up with in an RPG. The worst example of this is Johnny Depp as the Mad Hatter. Firstly, the character is written to be this traumatized war refugee trying to recover from the loss of his friends and home. I'm pretty sure the original Mad Hatter wouldn't care about something like that. It's a common problem with the characters in this movie. The remake tries to make them more logical when they're not supposed to be. It defeats the purpose of Wonderland being a backwards place. Depp's version of the character isn't mad, he's just a little weird. He also speaks in like 4 different accents, which is really grating to put up with. It just comes across as really bad impressions of his previous roles like Jack Sparrow. And the big scary dragon we're supposed to be intimidated by isn't even scary because he's not a character. He's just a tool that's used as a plot device. He has a total of 2 lines of dialogue and he only appears during the last 15 minutes of the movie. What was the point of getting Christopher Lee to voice this guy if you're not gonna utilize him? It's a completely disrespectful waste of his talent. And while I've already criticized the CGI, I've yet to criticize the actual design of Wonderland. Everything about it is completely disenchanted and dull compared to pretty much any other adaptation of the movie, or even the original book. Even the video games were more creative because Wonderland represented Alice's trauma and deteriorating mental health. The remake just makes it look bland and gloomy for the sake of being edgy. And then for some stupid reason, they retcon Wonderland by throwing in a pointless twist that Alice just remembered the name wrong. Because you see, it's not called Wonderland, it's actually called Underland. What? But why? Why is it called Underland? Because it takes place underground? You seriously had to take Wonderland's identity away just for a pointless change like that? Seriously, Tim? Fuck you. The only thing about this movie that's kind of entertaining is Helena Carter as the Queen of Hearts. She's actually pretty in tune with how the character is supposed to be. Her acting is good and she gets her over-the-top anger and mannerisms down faithfully. She's fairly commanding in her line deliveries and how she interacts with the other characters, making her a believable threat and a reasonably well-scripted villain. She is fun to watch, but it's just not enough to save the movie. But above everything else, what makes this movie so terrible is how Tim deliberately ignores all the creative elements of the original novel. Alice in Wonderland was never a story that was appropriate for his style of filmmaking. It was a surreal experience completely devoid of logic. It was a world that operated from the view of a child and its main character was having a coming-of-age experience with it. That's what made it so imaginative. It was a childlike fantasy experience that gravitated towards kids. Tim takes all the whimsy and imagination away from the original and makes it not that. It's not even original in terms of being a Tim Burton movie. It's just a shitty copy of his previous works. Even if this was just its own thing and not an adaptation of a beloved classic, it's still a boring by-the-numbers hero's journey that's been done better in hundreds of other movies. It's a style over substance movie through and through. Wonderland was supposed to be a world without any clear order or direction to it. And trying to inject those things into Alice in Wonderland makes it not Alice in Wonderland anymore. It might as well just be a different property entirely. I guess if there's something nice I can say about this movie, it's that it could have been a lot worse. It's still terrible, but not to the point of being extremely offensive like the other movies ranked below it on this list. It was definitely not a good start for this trend that Disney would pursue in light of its box office success, but it's like I said, it certainly could have been a lot worse. Oh, how far we have fallen.